So I decided to have a self-care day where I bought myself some flowers for Valentine's, and then I got myself some brownies for a little snack, and then decided to put on my favorite comfort show that I love to watch all the time, even though I've seen it already all the way through, and just had a really good time before I decided to go and pick up a book. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Happy Valentine's Day. That means it's definitely that season where everyone's picking up romance novels. Personally, I just finished my self-care Valentine's Day where I got to do little things that I personally enjoy and got to relax. And I thought I would go through all the novels that I enjoyed the romance aspects of them. Not all of these are romance books. They might be fantasy or thriller or a different genre, but do have a romance aspect that I did enjoy. Then I thought I'd go through the books that had romances that I did not enjoy. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy the book, but it did mean that I didn't really like the aspect of romance that was put into it. And obviously, these are not all the books that I have, because I'm sure most of these books have some sort of aspect of romance, but these are just the ones that stuck out to me. First, we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I had read this when I was kind of going through a little bit of a hard time. And so the feeling I got when I read this book did stick with me. And I really enjoyed the romance part in here follows Nora, who is, I believe, a publisher, and then Charlie, who is an editor. And they're rivals in this book, so it's kind of like a rivals to lovers. Really enjoyable. I think there's something about Emily Henry's writing that makes the romance feel very believable and relatable. Then I have Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. The romance in this book felt like more than just romance because this is kind of a heavy storyline, very emotional. Her trying to, learn how to deal with life after losing the closest person in her life. And our male main character kind of helping her go through grief and figuring herself out and figuring out life again. And I thought that that was very, very heartwarming, very comforting, and felt kind of like a warm hug. Then we have something that was a little more on the fun side, The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. This is kind of like a witchy, Halloween, Hallmarky, fast-paced, fun book. The romance in here is kind of like second chance almost, except I guess they didn't really have much of a first chance. And she ends up hexing him, and when he comes back to town, all those crazy things start happening. So it's super fun, super fast paced, like I said. Kind of get to just like shut your brain off and enjoy the fun ride of this book. Then this is more of a recent read. It's a YA romance, The Do-Over, about a young woman who ends up reliving Valentine's Day over and over and over again. I thought that the romance aspect of this book felt very realistic. 'Cause even though she had only really spoke to him that one day, she relived it over and over and over again, that she really knew him and she felt like he knew her. So even though it was one day, it kind of wasn't one day. And she really figured herself out in this story, which I thought was really good. And I think for a YA novel, I think that that's super healthy and an important aspect to have in the book. Then I have The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. Now, I really enjoyed and adored the romance in this book. It was so sweet, with her neighbor always dropping by to help her with whatever her cottage needed help in and bringing her cinnamon rolls and just being like the nicest human being on the earth. And then she also had that space to figure herself out, figure out what was going on because she just lost practically everything she had in her life with the library and then starting over from nothing in her old town. So I thought that that was incredibly sweet. And he's kind of I think he's meant to be kind of like a cowboy-ish because he raises seahorses. They're also both like incredibly awkward. Then I have Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. This is the slowest of slow burns, and it's kind of like satiric office fantasy romance, if you will. And it's so funny, and it's something you can just get lost in. Because obviously our female main character is super bubbly, sunshine, and then the boss, the villain, he is very grumpy, doesn't even really kind of want her around, but then kind of does want her around. Very cute, very sweet. Then we have Falling Like Leaves by Misty Wilson, another YA romance novel that is more of an autumn read. And this one is super cute, very sweet, very Gilmore Girls-esque. The town is amazing. Like, everyone would want to live in this town of Bramble Falls, really. And the romance doesn't start off on the best foot, but by the end, I think, but after watching our characters grow and communicate and talk, I think it's one of the better YA romances, especially having added that aspect where they were trying to figure themselves out and they are, learning about life. And I think that that really worked for this book. Then we have The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walter. This is actually one of my more favorite YA romances. This is a summer one, and I got this really fun edition. Super beautiful. And it's got character art. See that? Is it? Yeah. And this book also had some heavier themes in it of loss and figuring yourself out and just kind of losing someone very close to you, losing another half, and then trying to figure things out again. But the fun thing about this is like it's everything you want in a summer novel. It's a vacation, it's a bunch of people getting together and just having fun. The book follows our main character who's going for a family member's wedding, and the whole family decides to play this huge game of assassin, and she ends up teaming up with our male main character. And it's just like a really fun, wholesome, sweet time along with those heavier themes. And it doesn't feel too heavy. It feels very natural and organic, especially with our two characters and the romance they end up having. Now, this next one, I know not everyone's favorite of this book series, but it is my favorite. It's Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. This is the second book in her Rebel Blue Ranch series. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy all of the book series. I love the romances in all of them, but particularly this one because they're both dealing with things in their life. And Wes is dealing specifically with depression, and that is something that I also deal with. So when reading his perspective and he's talking about it, I feel like I could relate to him. And also, this is like a golden retriever black cat romance, and our main character of Ada, I think that's how it's pronounced, she feels very much like, you know, not antisocial, but she kind of sticks to herself. She doesn't think she's like the nicest, warmest person. And I feel like I can relate to that sometimes too. So I felt like these were two incredibly relatable characters. And a lot of people feel like this is insta-lovey, which it can seem that way, I think. But I liked to see the aspect where they were getting to know each other while they were working on a project together. So that's why this is in my top favorites. Then we have Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. This is the third book in her When in Rome series following the Walker siblings. This one follows Emily Walker, and this is a rivals to lovers romance. She's a teacher, he's a teacher, and she ends up accidentally sending the manuscript of her romance novel to her principal, who's more on the conservative side, and she enlists the help of our male main character to help her steal it back And it is a romance that I really, really enjoyed. It felt very realistic, and I want to say like they help each other grow and they give each other support in the areas that they need the support in. And I think that that was really one of the best aspects of the relationship in this one. Then we also have Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. This is the second book in her When in Rome series. This one follows Annie Walker, and she's very much, that very sweet girl who owns a flower shop, but she is having the hardest time in the love department, going on worst date after worst date. So she ends up getting our male main character, who is the bodyguard to the female main character in the first book in the series, if that makes sense. And she gets him to tutor her on how to date. I really felt like I could relate to our main character of Annie, because when I read this, I was also 27 and the character of Annie is 27. And there's just a lot of relatable aspects between the two of us, except I don't think I would ever own a flower shop. And I'll just say, I really loved the main character of Will. I think that he was super awesome. Who doesn't love tattoos? I've got a few of my own. Of course, I'm going to love that character. And it's the same with the male main character in Beg, Borrow, or Steal. I really, really enjoyed these male main characters. There's just some aspect of them that made you feel comfortable. I think he has tattoos as well. Sarah Adams loves her male main characters to have tattoos. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Now we have another YA. It's Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I think Pippa and Ravi had the cutest YA romance that felt also realistic because you could feel it grow throughout this book. And it didn't feel like it came out of nowhere. It didn't feel awkward. And by the end, it felt very like organic and right, as opposed to it just like happening right away. And then you're like, well, where did that come from? You don't even know this person. And all the things that they went through in this book, I mean, Pip really put herself out there in some crazy situations. This one became one of my favorite books of last year. I loved it so much, still love it. It's One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is also incredibly slow burn, and it's enemies to lovers, but it felt very organic and real. And obviously, this is not a romance book. I would say it's more of a fantasy book that has some romantic elements in it, but those elements were done so good. And our romance is between Elsbeth and Raven. Raven, such a handsome gentleman. Now we have one more YA book. This was the book that got me through high school in all the difficult times I was going through at that moment in life. So it does have a very special place in my heart. It's Divergent by Veronica Roth, and the romance between Triss and Four, this kind of enemies to lovers sort of. I just remember my teenage self loving this, and every time I watch the movie and I reread the book, I just love it even more and more and more. Because Four really pushes her to be the best version of herself. And then he's also there in times that she does need his help. Now, another one that I feel is kind of along the same lines as Divergent. We've got Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yaros. I feel like this is just the adult version of Divergent with dragons and it's fantasy. But the romance I did really enjoy between the characters of Zayden and Violet. Again, is really fun. It's really that like push and pull between our enemies to lovers. Then we have our last one that I'm going to be talking about of my favorites. It's Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. And I believe this is YA, but I would consider it more of a new adult NA than I would say YA, just because there is more spice in this than I would consider, YA. But this is also enemies to lovers and kind of fake dating. And I think our romance in here was actually really enjoyable and fun, especially living in this fantasy world. And she's a witch, he's a witch hunter, but he doesn't know that she's a witch. And so it's like, it's very enticing. Now for the novels that had romance aspects that I did not enjoy so much. Now, this doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy the book, just that I didn't enjoy the romantic part of it. First, I'm going to talk about All I Want by Lyra Parrish. I actually DNF'd this book. I just did not like our male main character at all. I felt like he was super unlikable. I liked the idea of the story. I just think that I need to like the characters a little bit more in order to continue reading the book. Then we've got The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Lori Gilmore. I love the character of Hazel. I feel like I could relate to her a lot. You know, she's got curly hair, she wears glasses, she runs a bookstore. I think she's really great. Our character of Noah, he's fine. The storyline felt a little flat, and the romance felt very, like, a little disjointed to me, personally. These are just personal opinions. Then we've got Soul Searching by Lila Sage. And you know, I love Lila Sage's writing. Just, again, like, these romance in this felt a little disjointed again. It didn't feel like cohesive, I guess. I feel like we didn't get to know our male main character enough, and we knew a lot more of our female main character. And so, with not knowing our male main character, it felt hard to see that romance part coming together. Then we have, and I just actually read this book, Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I really wanted to read this book and enjoy it because I've heard so much about Abby Jimenez and her writing, and this is my first book of hers that I've ever read. And I just did not enjoy it that much. I didn't enjoy the romance between Daniel and Alexis. I did love both characters separately. I think Daniel was such an amazing guy, too, and I think he did so much work. But there was something about, I, I don't know, it felt very much distant. Obviously, because there's distance in their relationship, too. But that's just my two thoughts. I couldn't get into it, and I feel really bad. I binged it in like one day too. So I still have Just for the Summer of hers on my TBR. Hopefully I enjoy that one a little bit more than I did of this. I think they're part of the same universe, I think. Interconnected books. If you know if they're part of an interconnected book series, and if maybe I might enjoy that one a little bit better, please leave it in the comments. And then we have The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I love Jennifer Lynn Barnes' writing, and I did really love this book. But the romance love triangle thing between our main character of Avery and the two brothers of Grayson and Jameson just felt, I just don't like a love triangle. It feels really messy, and she also just like got super attracted to both of them. Which again, maybe it's a teenage thing, and I'm just not a teenager anymore. But the other young adult romances I read and that were in my favorites just didn't feel that way that like this one felt. Felt very uncomfortable. And that's it for the books that have my favorite romance aspects and the books that had my least favorite romance aspects to them. If you have any books that are your favorites that you're reading this Valentine's season, please leave them down in the comments. I would love to either add more books to my TBR or hear what your guys' thoughts are. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on the books that I mentioned in this video as well. So please drop those in the comments and like this video and then subscribe for future content.